Hi everyone, my name is Dakota and I'm here with my very first monthly wrap-up. So here is everything I read for the month of July. I first started off with The Throne of Glass by Rick Riordan. I'm trying to get through all of his books, and this was one of the only series I haven't started by him. And so I started out the month reading the second book in the Kane Chronicles, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I then continued on with The Serpent's Shadow, which is the third and final book in the Kane Chronicles series. And this series was just a lot of fun, and I loved learning more about the Egyptian mythology because everyone knows about the Greek and the Roman mythology, but not as many people know about Egyptian mythology. So this was just a lot of fun to read, and it was really enjoyable. And I really want more of this series. I know it's not as most popular series, but I would buy another book from this series. And I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. I think that's how you say her name. But I loved this. I adored this. This was all I could have asked for and more. Reading about Simon and his adventures at the academy, and getting to see Alec and Magnus get their first little baby boy. Oh, it was so cute and I loved it so much. The only problem I had with this was the ending, and for those of you who have read it, you know what I'm talking about, the very last page of the very last story. That broke my heart. But yeah, I absolutely love this. I mean, I've never really been disappointed with any of Cassandra Clare's works, so I knew I was going to love this going into it, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So if you couldn't tell, I gave this a solid 5 out of 5 stars. And then we had the Booktube-A-Thon for the last week or so, about the last week of July. So the first book I read for that was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh, which is a retelling of 1001 Nights, where a prince gets a new bride every night and then they die at dawn the next morning. And our main character, her best friend, was one of the brides who is killed, and so she goes and tries to figure out what's going on, and she plans to kill the prince for taking her best friend away from her. And I love this so much, and I'm so mad for putting this off for so long. I've had it for 2 years since it's come out, and I just read it. Which is ridiculous. I should have picked it up sooner. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars, because who wouldn't give it 5 out of 5 stars? I also read the 3 novellas that came with it: The Moth and the Flame, The Crown and the Arrow, and The Mirror in the Haze. And I really enjoyed all of those, just reading more about the little background characters, or just seeing what it was like before Shahrazad, I think that's how you pronounce our main character's name, before she showed up, and then kind of when she showed up, and just seeing the minds of other characters. It was really cool to see that. Hey everyone, it is now Monday, the day after the Booktube-A-Thon ends. It is about 1 or 1:30, I think, and I just thought I'd let you guys know what I ended up reading and how many pages I read overall. So I started the readathon out with The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This one had 388 pages, and this completed the challenge of reading a hyped book. Initially I was using it for read a book with the person on the cover, but I've read a lot of other books with people on the cover, so I thought this would be just easiest to use it for a hyped book. And I also read the 3 novellas in that series. They were The Moth and the Flame, which was 26 pages, The Crown and the Arrow, which was 9 pages, and The Mirror in the Haze, which was 11 pages. And I honestly really enjoyed all 3 of those. They weren't they didn't blow my mind or anything, but they were a lot of fun to read. And they were just short little things that added to my total reading count, which is always nice. And then I also went out and bought The Rose and the Dagger. I have not started that yet, but I'm very excited to start that. I also read Food Wars Volume 1, which was 208 pages, and I'm using this book for read a book with a person on the cover, because there's quite a few people on the cover. I was going to use this for cover by, but I found a better book for that. So yeah, this is for a book with a person on the cover. I also read Tokyo Ghoul Volume 2, which was 208 pages. I also read Tokyo Ghoul Volume 3, which was 192 pages. and I'm using this book for the challenge read a cover by because this cover is absolutely gorgeous. The phone isn't picking it up so well, but in person it's beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. I also read Fairy Tale Volume 2, which had 208 pages, and I'm using this for the challenge read a book in one day because it's just a short little manga, so it's really easy to read. I have Volume 3 of this series, and I'm definitely going to continue on with it. I also read Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Haiku. Volumes 1 and 3 had 192 pages each, and Volume 2 had 200 pages. I'm using Volume 2 as the book I read entirely outdoors, because I just kind of went out one morning and just kind of read this. I also read The Gunslinger by Stephen King, which has 251 pages, and I'm going to be using this one as read a book with a character who's very different from you. This book is obviously like a fantasy sci-fi kind of book, so obviously the character is going to be different from me, but he is a gunslinger in a world that isn't exactly like Earth, and just like his upbringing and his kind of like moral compass and just who he is as a person is a lot different from I am, so I figured this would be a good one to read for that challenge. And I wasn't a huge fan of this book. I wasn't a huge fan at the beginning. The middle picked up a little bit, but then I found myself skimming like the last part of it, so this was just kind of like a meh book for me. I mean, I'm glad I read it. I'm excited to see the movie, but the book itself was just kind of iffy for me. Then I also listened to Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology by Leah Remini on Audible, and that one had 256 pages, and I absolutely loved it. It was really cool to listen to her talking about her, like how she got into Scientology and how it kind of like shaped who she was as a person and how like that affected her life. I liked learning about like the religion itself, like Scientology itself, because I didn't know much about it, so it was really cool learning about it through the perspective of someone who was in it for 30 years. So her narration was perfect. She was hilarious in it. And then I also got around to reading about 8 pages of The Carnivorous Carnival. So yeah, this is what I ended up reading for the Booktube-A-Thon, and I think I did really well because I was not anticipating reading that much during the readathon. Yeah, I hope all of you guys had a fantastic readathon. I know I did. I hope you guys read a lot, and I hope you guys enjoyed everything you read. Hey everyone, it's Dakota from the future. I was editing this video, and when I went to editing it, I realized that my wrap-up, like my monthly wrap-up, when I was filming it, it cut off like halfway through. So I combined that with my booktube wrap-up, and I realized I had not shown you guys like all the books I read for the entire month. I just showed you guys the books I read for the Booktube-A-Thon. So I thought I'd just show you guys everything in total of what I read for the entire month of July. So these were all the physical books that I read for the entire month of July. Sorry about the poor editing. I ran out of room on my phone when I was halfway through filming my wrap-up. So these, my little picture at the end, did not get included. So hopefully I can do better in the future. Now back to the end of the video before I drop these. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below what you guys read and how you enjoyed the readathon. And I will see you guys very soon.